All right. Hi, everyone. For those of you that are here, this is our second starting. We forgot to push record. And I just said it's recorded. You can listen to it, and we forgot to record. So here it is. And the recording is always on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's Breathe Inc. And you can find us or type in our names and you should be able to find us. And then we always have the link in our emails as well. So please go check this out because we'll be shifting a lot of our calls and things going live on YouTube instead of always using the Zoom route. So just a little side note. And I was talking about how maybe many of you, I was feeling it too this weekend. But the influence of the full moon was pretty spectacular and strong. And for me, and I think for many of you, it's this like illumination, like there's this wide opening of your heart that happened. And it's good to be illuminated. It's good to feel like there are these shadow places that you get to shine and dust off. And I did a lot of dusting this weekend too, like behind the covers and things like that, clean things out. But that might have made you feel a little bit stretched out or maybe too vulnerable, too wide open. So if you felt that sense of like slight rawness, then pull yourself in, okay? Reel yourself back in, okay? And make sure that you are collected, you're back in your space, because we're going to need that to ground yourself to go through today's Q&A. Okay. And the questions have come in for me in the last several weeks, and I want to address those. There've been a lot. I spend actually countless hours actually working on trying to make it so that it's usable, it's easy to understand. There's a lot of work that goes into answering all your questions. So I hope to get to quite a bit of them, but I like to go into details instead of just say, take this and, don't do that kind of thing. There's time for that, but this one is a little more in-depth answering. So I'm not going to be able to answer everybody's questions. So therefore we're not going to be answering questions from your chat today. Okay. All right, so let's take a moment and close your eyes, settle back into your system, your body. First, check back into your breaths. Where are you right now? How are you breathing? And for those of you that have taken my courses on breath work and other things, I talk a lot about your signature breath. Let's come back to your signature breath and the breathing patterns that you've been living with. It's not good or bad. It's just, this is your signature. Just like the swirls of your fingertips, you have your signature. And at the same time, it's good to check back in and say, do I need to hold on to this pattern of breathing? Can I manifest different breathing patterns? Can I shift? Can I evolve? Check in with your breaths. And wiggling your toes a little. Wiggle your fingers. Notice all your digits. And take a moment as you slowly relax your fingers and your toes from wiggling. Take a moment and realize how important these fingers and toes are. So first, let's spend a little bit of time attending to your toes energetically, from the big toes to the pinky toes. What do they do for you? How do they show up for you every day, every moment of your life? I went for a quick run and a very brisk walk yesterday. And I really noticed my toes working hard, gripping, holding me up, releasing, propelling me to go forward. So let's take a moment here to thank them for all their hard work. And see if you could tune into one of your toes maybe, or all of them, and ask it or ask them, what does it need or what do they need from you? Do they need any extra care? Do they need a little scrubbing? Maybe a little stretching? Ask them for your answers. And let's do the same with your fingers. Tuning into them. Notice what they do for you. Your fingers, and then maybe even go down to your palms and your hands. They hold, they release, they give hugs to others, to yourself. They brush your teeth for you. They hold the morning cup of coffee for you. Brush your hair. Scratch somebody's back. They plant plants and flowers. They receive gifts. They rise up into the skies when they need to protest or reach for something higher. They're there to show your presence. They are there to support others. So just notice all these things that your hands are doing throughout your life, your entire life. And take a moment and give thanks to them. And ask your hands and your fingers, your palms, what do you need? What do you need that I can do more for you? And then slowly coming back to your breath again. Notice your patterns. See if you're able to shift a little bit, maybe breathe differently than when you first paid attention. And start to wiggle your toes and your fingers, maybe roll your shoulders, move your head side to side, front and back, stretch your neck, and then slowly opening your eyes. Back to this space. Okay. So if I have time, I'll pull my cards. I do have them here, but let's get going on some of the questions. Okay. Chris, are you okay? You're not, yeah, you're not getting too many, like questions coming to you or anything, right? So you're okay.
Yep, we're all set.
Okay, good. So the first, the disclaimer is very important. So what I want you to know is that, yes, we'll be answering your health-oriented questions. It may straddle into spirit's world. It might straddle to your mind. And emotional side, that can always happen, right? That's because we're mind, body, and spirit. Okay. But please know that we're not doctors, we're functional nutritional therapists. Okay. And then we work with people's bodies. But what we're going to be recommending is not obviously medications or anything like that. And if you do take medications, please consult with your doctors about this. And then whatever the recommendations that I'll be making and Chris will be making, please first check in with your doctors. Okay. That must be said. Okay. And it's an information only. So please, take notes and whatever you need to do, but please filter it through your own inner knowing, your own intuition, and, really trust what your gut says also. Okay. And last thing I wanted to say about this is when you ask certain questions, number one, Chris and I talk about this a lot, but the quality of your question really matters. Okay. Quality of your question determines the answer as well. And also the answer is never one thing. So you know how I feel about predicting things too much. Okay. But also when somebody says that is caused by one thing, we cannot point one finger at one thing. There's just too many things going on in this world to just point one finger and say that is the cause. It could be emotional. It could be traumas. It could be fungus. It could be the moldy house you're living in. It could be your poor diet. Okay. It could be so many things. So please be aware that there are multiple causes to all this. Okay. All right. Chris, anything else to add?
I think that covers it. Yeah, just this is there's a lot of information to take in when we're talking about health. And I just want to reiterate what Masami said. If you work with a doctor, use that as part of your filtration system. And any other practitioners that you might be working with, you have to also account for their role in your process. Okay. Masami, would you like me to just read the questions first? And
Sure.
then...
Yeah, let's get started. And then, on the side note with what you just said is that I have done this in the past, is that I have worked with people that work with just too many practitioners. So this was years ago. This one lady came to my office, and then it was on Thursday, I remember, and it was a Thursday afternoon. And I put my hands on her and I pulled my hands off. And I said, okay, how many people have you seen this week? She started to name all these people that she's been to that week. And basically she was seeing about 2 practitioners per day. So you can kind of imagine how many hands had been touched her body by the time she came to see me on Thursday afternoon. That is just too many. Okay. That is, you're not using your own filtering system. So that's when I said to her, I said, I am going to volunteer to remove myself. And I said, I can't work with you because that's just too confusing to your body. So please keep that in mind also as we go into things that, maybe certain things I say will be like, you might say, well, somebody else said this and so said this. So, you've got to filter it through you. All right. There's just too much information out there. But what I'm going to base my answers on, or I have consulted with my mentors as well on this. Okay. One of my mentors is 88 years old. Okay. He is one of my favorite people on this earth. Amazing. He's so patient with me, and I always go back and forth with him in difficult cases. When I look at blood tests, when I'm looking at thyroid panels, when I'm looking at difficult kind of chronic issues, if I am unable to fully engage and feel confident, he's the person that I always contact. So I have consulted with him on some of these questions as well. So, all right, so let's start with the first question.
Okay, the first question is, I have had digestive issues for years and have now been diagnosed with osteopenia because I'm not digesting or absorbing my proteins, calcium, and other minerals. I used to have very toned muscles and have noticed them becoming much less toned, and I have less exercise endurance. I've been taking the betaine HCl, the betaine hydrochloride, for a few months now. At first, it made me nauseous, and then it made me very gassy. I've tried to read up on betaine hydrochloride to find out if these side effects are normal, but have not been able to find anything. So my question is this normal? Should I keep it up or stop taking it? Or is there something else I should be doing?
Okay, so this, I mean, common and normal are different things. I just want you to know that. It's common. I see this a lot, but it's not normal. Okay, so taking betaine hydrochloric acid, which is something that your body produces, which is to support your digestion, mostly protein, but also helps to break down the fiber, and then makes the fat a lot easier to digest, and it communicates back to the brain so that the brain can communicate to other organs. Okay, so it's not, it's common though. Okay, but I wouldn't call it normal. And then when you have nausea or bloating and gassy kind of feelings after you take hydrochloric acid, what that means is that there's connection to the gallbladder issues here. So gallbladder can, and then Chris can chime in with this too, but there's, I'm sure you've heard of, like, I talk about the gallbladder stagnation all the time, right? But when you're taking stomach acid and if you feel nauseous, that means that the bile is most likely backing up into the stomach, and it's very nauseating. Okay, so when I work with like women who are pregnant and they feel like morning sickness is coming up, that's when I definitely address their gallbladder and liver issues. So when you start to take the hydrochloric acid, what it does is that it triggers the gallbladder to squeeze and release the bile into this area called duodenum. Okay, after the stomach reaches a certain pH, the bile squeezes. But when the squeezing isn't enough, or maybe sometimes it's too much or sludgy and stuck, you can feel very nauseous because that material can go back up into the stomach. Okay. And then in the beginning might be nauseous, but then you continue to take it, maybe that flow starts to get better. But then what that means is that your gallbladder isn't producing or squeezing enough, not producing, but squeezing enough bile. Then what happens is that that's going to make their way into the small intestine, and it's going to make you really gassy, because bile's job is to collect pathogenic things like microbes and parasites and bacteria and even viruses and yeast and fungus, and it cleans the gut out, but you're not getting a full-on cleanup. So you don't just want to take HCO, betaine hydrochloric acid. You also want to take some support for your liver. Okay, so those two have to go together. So a lot of people say, I'm doing a betaine, and if you're younger, that's all maybe that you need is betaine. But if you're feeling nauseous and then gassy, and it's really, really stinky gas, okay, I mean like so foul, you've got to help the bile, so the liver and gallbladder, and also you most likely need pancreatic support. Okay, so any bloating and gassiness after your meal, you want to look at, did I eat protein? Protein is going to get digested by betaine hydrochloric acid. Carbohydrates and fiber-rich foods are going to be digested by your pancreatic enzymes. Fats are going to be digested through the production and the release of the bile. So if you're not releasing enough bile, then you're going to get stools that are frothy, sometimes color that's golden color, like a clayish color, very stinky farts in the lower gut, as well as distension around the small intestine as well. So you don't want to just support the stomach acid. You want to do the pancreatic enzymes as well as liver support. And I will go into some liver supplements. I will pull up some screens and share that. But before I do that, anything, Chris, that you want to address here?
No, I think that's important, and also to realize some of the questions that are coming these are going to build on each other. So you'll find that there are going to be some overlapping components to each of these questions that can help to answer. Maybe if you have a question that's related but not exactly, you may find that you'll get pieces of your answer throughout these other cases that people have shared with us. And another thing to remember is when you're working on changing the factors of digestion in your whole system, it's not an overnight thing for most people. This kind of condition here is a very chronic kind of condition. And so it takes a little bit of time for your body to relearn and rebalance how to do these functions in the best way. Okay, so there's a little bit of, like, we sometimes find that people they assume that if they take a supplement that the effect will be immediate. And that's one thing that's very different with supplements from medication, is that supplements are supporting your natural body functions. They're not triggering a new kind of response like medication does. Okay, so it takes a little bit of time to train the body and for the supplements to have their effect. And then Masami, before we go to the next question, I just wanted to mention again, for those of you that are just joining us, if you didn't hear the announcement before, we've turned off the chat. We've got a full slate of questions that were already submitted by email over the last couple of weeks since Masami put out the call. So we're not going to be taking any live questions on the call today. And the chat is turned off for the participants. Okay, just wanted to make that comment one more time.
Yeah, thank you. And I will share, and then it's Rama's question is this, and she has her hands up. But Rama, I can't go into details today because there's just too much to cover. So what we can do, Chris, is that maybe open up the chat just for her to ask some questions if she needs to. But I will ask you to not ask me questions right now until we're almost done, because some of your questions might be answered. Okay, so I'm going to go to the screen share here, and I'm going to show you which supplement that I recommend that you take. Okay, and then I made a full script, my own full script page, and I was hoping that the Chris can go through the full script, but we can do that after I share this. Okay, so I became a client here, okay, and I made myself a recommendation based on what we're talking about today. So betaine plus HP, 1 to 2 capsules in the middle of the meal is extremely important if you have gassiness, bloatiness, okay. And I also think that the Thorn brand is a pretty good one here, okay. And the full script, you get 10% off. So, you know, why not order through full script when you can order 20,000 different supplements from this company? And I mean, this, you know, dispensary. And I do not recommend you order supplements from Amazon at all. And one of the things that I'm going to be recommending for the liver support is these 2 supplements. So it's called Beta Plus. Beta Plus has ox bile salts in them. So what you want to do is, if you're having bloated and gassiness, and if you don't have a gallbladder, it's a must supplement to take Beta Plus. It does have ox bile salts in them. So what you can do is you can take maybe 1 to start with, maybe 20 minutes before you start to eat, for 3 times a day, 3 meals per day. Okay. And the Biomin, hence the name Bile here, is a great, you know, Apex Energetics makes a really good product also. So I just clicked on it so you can kind of see. Vitamin C is very important for your liver, right? And dandelion extract, obviously it's really good. Milk thistle is awesome. I just learned today that the milk thistle actually helps with the estrogen conjugations. It helps with the receptor sites of the estrogen. So a lot of women are having estrogen issues, as you know. And, you know, we're not just talking about breast cancer, but the menopause that lasts for decades kind of thing. I have a person I'm working with, she's almost 80 years old, and then she still has hot flashes. So those symptoms are all liver congestions. So milk thistle becomes very, very important for that. And then I'm going to skip that, but because the lipids are so important too, but the taurine is a must ingredient in the liver support. And this does have, let's see, yeah, that has a ginger too, but this does not, I believe, yeah, it does not have ox bile salts in this one. So this is like for people that have gallbladder, okay, they still have a gallbladder, you know that your gallbladder is still working relatively well, okay, but everybody needs to be supporting your liver. I mean, it's like, I just don't see any exceptions with the liver support at this point. So I do liver support every day. And then on the weekends, I do extra support. So this is a great one to take for just the kind of a day-to-day kind of thing. Okay. And you can follow what they tell you when to take it and all that. But I'm going to be recommending, it says, 1 capsule once a day. That is not enough. Okay. So in most cases, at least take about 2. Okay. In some cases, you might need to take 3. And I like to take liver support a little bit away from food, just a little bit away from 20 minutes or, wait about an hour after you've had your food and then take it. Just, I like them to support my liver, not get stuck in my stomach. Okay. So these are 2 really, I think, a good product to go for in terms of the liver and then the gassy issues. Okay. So I lost it somewhere. And then HCl Prozyme is also good hydrochloric acid as well. Apex makes this also. And if you look at the ingredients here, the key ingredient is B6, everyone. B6 is very, very important for making B6 and B1 and zinc, but those are very important for making your own stomach acid. So B6 is in this one. Hydrochloric acid is in this one. Pepsin is going to help you with the pancreatic support, and it's going to help you with the digestion of carbohydrates as well. This one does have the ox bile. Here it is. I knew I saved it somewhere. This does have ox bile salts. Okay. So for those of you that do not have a gallbladder, or you have been diagnosed with some gallbladder issues that, the doctor said, well, you got a very sludgy, there's a crystallized bile in there, you need to break them. This will be very important. Okay. So I think I'll stop sharing for a moment and we'll go to the next question. Okay.
So Masami, really quick, I'm going to put the link up on the chat. The chat's just one way right now, everyone. So I'm sending this to you. And if you want to click that, that will take you to the page where you can set up your own account through us on FullScript. That's what Masami was just showing you. And we'll walk through that a little bit later after we do some more questions.
I'm going to actually share that screen right now so that
you want me to pull that up on mine? I've got it ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'll be talking about Zorox and FullScript. So.
Okay. So I'm going to scroll down and you can see that this is going to be for US residents only for FullScript. Okay, we have a couple of other resources for people that are in the UK and Europe. And so Masami, do you want to walk through this? Do you want to take over?
No, could you do that? Because I'm looking at Zorox right now.
So what you can do is if you would like to follow the link I just put in the chat, that will take you to FullScript. That was the platform that Masami was just showing you. It's really easy to use. We love it because they source all of these practitioner grade, professional grade. Basically, they're the best supplements on the market. And typically you can only get these through a practitioner of some kind, whether it's through us or through a doctor. That's how they're generally available. So you have to go through somebody to get this grade of supplements, but FullScript is somewhere where we can give you access. We give you an automatic 10% off and free shipping if you order a $50 or more order. So it's a great deal. They have over 20,000 individual supplement items from many different fantastic supplement makers. So this is a great resource. We highly encourage you to use this because it's very easy to set up. You can actually set it to autofill so you don't have to be thinking about it and run out and then forget and have to wait for a few days. So there are a lot of easy tools for you to use. and it makes it much, much more possible for you to have control over how you are having access to things. And so we love that about it. Do you want me to go ahead and talk about Zorox as well?
Yeah, go ahead. And then I have one gallbladder
Okay.
supplement I recommend from them.
So Zorox International is one of our most favorite makers. They are not on Fullscript. They aren't on Amazon or anywhere else either. You have to order directly through them. So any of the recommendations that we make that are Zorox, anything you hear from Masami today that says Zorox, this is how you can get those supplements. Okay. And the key right here is down in the ordering information. And basically this just requires a quick phone call. We have some very easy instructions. You just tell them that you came to them through us as the practitioners, and you can use either of our names, Masami or Chris Covey, and then they'll give you a customer number for future ordering, and then you can do it on your own without having to go through the customer support. So you can actually order online through their website directly. So it's very easy, and you can find that there. And just while I'm here, I'm going to very quickly say, if you're in the UK, you can follow this information to Nutralink, which sells many of the supplements that we talk about, including biotics research supplements. They don't currently have Zorox International at this time, but they do have a very good selection, also practitioner grade, and you also get 10% off of your price at checkout by mentioning that you are coming to them through us. And then finally, if you're in Europe, Energetica Natura, it's a Dutch or French language website. They cover much of Europe, but the website is going to be in either of those languages, although they do have customer service in English as well. So they're pretty flexible, and they have many of the same supplements if you're in Europe. Canada, sorry, we don't have a lot of options due to trade restrictions. But if you're in Canada, you can also find Fullscript through a practitioner in Canada. We just can't offer it directly.
And I think in Australia and New Zealand, you might be able to do the herb. I forget that company, the online herb, what is it?
I think it's Herb Life. I could be wrong, but
I don't think so. But my brother orders things from them in Japan, so I'll figure it out. But I'm going to share the Zorox screen, everyone, because I wanted to go over one gallbladder supplement that is really, really important. Okay, so this GB Complete, I don't know, do you see this, everyone? GB
Yes.
Complete. Okay, so GB Complete Gallbladder Complete, obviously, right? This one does not have ox bile salts in them, okay, but it does have artichoke extract in it, and I really, really like artichoke extract. For those of you that are very sensitive to oxalates, so you're sensitive to, you've heard me talk about oxalates a lot. So please, look up oxalate-rich foods. Like spinach is one of the highest oxalatic foods, but also like beets. So some of the gallbladder support supplements will have beets in them, and some people just don't do that well with it. I don't do that well with the ones with the beets so much. So I use GB Complete, and GB Complete is really, really gentle. So I like it. I can use, currently I'm taking about 2 to 3, but every other day or so, but I've been doing this for a while, so I don't really do it all the time anymore. But when I know I can feel my liver's congested, my shoulder blade starts to hurt, my neck is in pain, my stools are not coming out really well, then that's when I go to about 3 per day. Okay, but it's usually away from food in my case, and then that's what I would recommend for you. If you were working with me, that's the recommendation I would make. And the last thing about the Zorox is that they have a wonderful stomach acid. And instead of the betaine hydrochloric acid that you can buy from Fullscript, and if you want to venture out to buying stuff from Zorox, this is the one I would recommend. And like I said, my mentor actually formulated this, and he was so proud of himself because it is so gentle but effective. Okay. And it uses the apple cider vinegar, but not the the one that will cause you to have histamine reactions. Okay. They actually purchased a machine to only extract apple cider vinegar of the acid part. So it doesn't impact people with any kind of a mast cell issues, or, maybe histamine issues. I tend to have more histamine reactions. So it was important for me to switch my hydrochloric acid to HCO complete from betaine that I used to use. So this is the one I use. I take 1 to 2, often 2 per meal, unless I'm just eating mostly vegetables, and I might just do 1. Okay. But if I'm eating protein-rich meal, which I do often, I do consume a lot more protein than ever before in my life, to support my menopause and my next half of my life. So then, I would take 2 or so. Sometimes if I'm feeling gassy and bloated and I'm still kind of hungry and I'm wandering around the kitchen a little bit more after I've eaten, then I take another one, even 20 minutes, 40 minutes after I have already eaten. Okay. And I'll just give you a quick information on that, because it's important that you understand that the digestion can take upwards of 4 hours. Okay. So this was a couple of weeks ago. We finished lunch about, maybe 40 minutes ago. And Chris and I were just sitting and just kind of talking. And I said to Chris, I said, I have to get on the call with my private session. I need to take a nap because I'm so exhausted. So I told him that I just need to go lie down on that sofa for about 10 minutes. So I told him, could you wake me up? And he said, no. And, that's like an unlike answer from Chris, right? So what happened was that he said, you just need to take 1 more stomach acid and that will wake you up. And he said, I'm going to give it 90 seconds. And so he set the 90 seconds on his phone, started the timer. And then what do you know? Within 90 seconds, I was wide awake. I was ready to do this. I did not need to take a nap. What you want to remember is that after you eat, even a half an hour, 45 minutes later, that you've eaten and you feel exhausted and tired, that means in most cases that your digestion is very sluggish and your brain is dialing down and saying, I don't know, she's not giving us the glucose yet. So that's when you may need to take that extra. Okay. So I knew it, but it was so powerful to experience it again. Okay. So let's go to the next question. That answered multiple questions, just so you know, everyone.
Okay. So the next one is, this past week, I came down with a really bad sinus infection. I used to have them often, but I hadn't had one for quite a while. I think I may be purging something through this because it's not typical sinus infection for me and it's lasting a lot longer. I've had symptoms since Tuesday and they haven't improved dramatically. I rinse my sinuses every morning with a neti pot using a sea salt and 1 drop of grapefruit seed extract. I started taking this tincture that usually helps when I have sinus pain, but it hasn't really been helping.
Okay. So I hope you are doing better. It takes time for the sinusitis to clear. But one thing that I wanted to say is that for those of you that have worked with me privately, know that, when you say to me, I have sinus infections or my sinus is all clogged up and I don't know what's happening to me, you've always seen me go like this. Yes. Okay. I get very excited. Okay. The reason is when your body begins to be fed, you're digesting, you are actually starting to release the bile, your pancreas is working, your insulin isn't going all over the place, and you are starting to build up your energy fields. What happens is that you actually your body can start to scan your body and look for latent and chronic infections. Okay. And I have never met anyone actually after thousands and thousands of bodies that I've worked with that have not had latent infections of some kind. Okay. Everybody has some kind of infection in our bodies, all of us. And many of you actually carry sinus infections. And sinus infection is connected to how you're digesting in your small intestine as well. So, if you have SIBO, you have gas, bloating, you've always had difficulties digesting, that's going to have an impact on your sinus. And, Chris reminded me a couple of days ago that he said, that the skin, the membrane, that the makeup of your sinus is the same basically as your small intestine. Okay. Your gastric lining, basically your small intestinal and large intestinal lining are so similar or almost the same as here. So what's going on here is what's going on down there also. So as you begin to eat better, as you begin to build up your energy, you will most likely experience sinus infections. And many of you that you work with me one-on-one, I have always warned you about this, right? Based on my own experience. I went through 3 rounds of horrific sinusitis that lasted months. I did not know how to take care of all that. I know so much more now because this is one of my favorite topics. So one thing to remember when you have sinus that it's really, really clogged up, okay? What's happening is that most chronic infection of the sinusitis, so if it's called sinusitis, that's pretty chronic, okay? 96% of what's happening inside that is fungal in its origin, okay? It's fungal in yeast, okay? So there's a lot of biofilm that is building up in there. So please know that the fungal means it's not bacterial. It's not viral. So if you go to the doctor and take more antibiotics for your sinusitis that it's chronic, you're just going to carpet bomb your gut, okay? And that is going to create more issues for your sinuses. So I like to address sinusitis with more of a holistic way and looking at it and saying, what can I do? Number one, if you've been working with me and you're eating better, you're digesting better, and you got sinus infections, that's nothing like you've ever experienced. I know it's hard, but you need to rejoice like I did, okay? And say, yes, I'm doing it, okay? So that's one. And when you have a thick mucus, so thick and thin are different. And I got 2 questions, actually. I'm going to be answering 2 people's questions here. One is the thick mucus question that came in. If you have a thick mucus, iodine is the key. It also means that you're low on iodine yourself inside, okay? So NAC can be good. NAC will be wonderful too to take. Proteolytic enzymes are going to be important, and I'll show you which proteolytic enzymes I recommend, okay? But if it's a thick mucus, what you want to do is you add 4-to-1 ratio with the saline solution in your neti pot. 1 of that will be iodine. So you might get a dropper and put a full dropper in there, okay? So that can be a nice mixture. You can also mix in, Zorox has the oregano oil that it's emulsified. So you put 2 drops of that in there. That can be really good. Emulsified oregano oil blend is a wonderful one. You can mix it in there with the iodine, okay? And I have used essential oils in there as well, just like a 1 drop of tea tree and things like that. I play around with my sinuses a lot because I had it so badly. And I gargle with the same kind of solutions as well, because it's ear, nose, throat, ear, nose, throat. So if you're having tinnitus, that was another question I got. I'm not going to go into details about that, but ear, nose, throat, you want to think about that. And the peroxide, maybe Chris, I can't remember.
Hydrogen peroxide.
Hydrogen peroxide can be really good for tinnitus as well. If you have kind of a latent infection that is causing you to have that sharp, high pitched tone things going on also. Tinnitus is another huge topic because there are multiple causes for tinnitus. But iodine, those things that I just mentioned would be really good. If you have a runny and watery mucus, it's similar, but what you need to look at is a little different. So this is when you need to go back to what I mentioned about the gallbladder support. If you have a runny, watery mucus that drips all the time. So I went from a thick sinusitis issues to watery nose all the time. Every single pocket of my outfit had tissue in it because I couldn't walk anywhere without having drippy nose. That's how bad it got. But watery mucus means your gallbladder and the bile is sluggish or stuck or not moving in the way that it needs to. So you need bile salts. Okay, you need bile salts. Bile salts, ox bile salts, basically the same thing. Okay, basically the same thing. So I want you to make sure you're supporting your gallbladder if you're having a watery kind. Okay, and I'm going to actually share the screen again with the full script and let's see, Zorox, because Zorox has this proteolytic enzymes that I just love. So let me share it. Share my screen. Okay. And Chris, maybe you can say a couple things about proteolytic enzymes while I'm getting that.
Proteolytic enzymes just means breaking down protein. That's what proteolytic means. So they help to break, and here's the thing is proteolytic enzymes, they will digest food, but we use them from a clinical standpoint. We use them to break down free moving proteins. So like places like in your sinuses or in your digestive tract, that's where these enzymes can be really powerful, is to help to sort of clean up and clear away the junk that has accumulated as a result of the digestion and other processes in your body. So that's what proteolytics are helpful for. It's very good for reducing inflammation too.
Yes. So Chris is really hitting a really important topic about proteolytic enzymes. Okay. So it's different from digestive enzymes. So the one that I really like from Zorox is called 8 times pancreatin. Okay. And let me see if I could go to full script. Okay. I'm still sharing. Awesome. Okay. So I don't have to keep kind of going back and forth here. So, Enterobite is, I think, it's the one too, but I'm going to go up to biotics, everyone, for proteolytic enzymes. Okay. You can use a bromelain plus CLA is good. Bioimmunozyme forte is good. And as you know, this is recorded, right? So you can go back and listen to it. But the no, it's not bioimmunozyme. I'm sorry.
Enzyme is the one you want.
Enzyme. It's not bioimmunozyme, everyone.
It's Intenzyme. I'll type that up in the chat.
Oh, no, I got it. Enzyme forte. Yeah, sorry. Bioimmunozyme is what we use for COVID and what we use for immune support. We use it a lot because this new variant is really, spreading really, really fast. And we can actually feel it when we come back from shopping for groceries and things like that. So we gargle, we do the neti pot, we wash hands, and then we take the Immunozyme forte. But the one that I'm talking about is Intenzyme forte, everyone. Okay. So this is similar to the 8 times proteol enzyme that I showed you with pancreatin. I'm sorry, 8 times pancreatin that I showed you from Zorox. But this one has 4 times pancreatin. The other one has 8 times. Okay. So you can choose. Okay. But what you can use this for is what's amazing about it. Okay. So I'm going to pull out of that. So it's different than just digestive enzymes. Okay. Because you will see some digestive enzymes in there, but you use this away from food. Okay. Away from food. And you use it like first thing in the morning, last thing at night, away from food. And if you have injuries like scar tissues, or we just actually had our friend do this because he had to have a dental work done. So before he went to the dentist and then afterwards, we had him take a ton of it. So for the one from Biotics, I had him take about 5 to 6 of those, about 3 to 4 times per day between meals. What it does is that it heals your tissues very, very fast. And the one from Zorox is pretty amazing. And I pulled it up here because I wanted to read it, but proteolytic enzymes have been used successfully for redness, swelling, and inflammation associated with pockets of infection, ulcers, surgery, trauma, asthma, gout, and it increased mucus also. And this is why I'm bringing it up for the sinus people, okay? You want to take this therapeutically so that you can break the mucus, you can break the biofilm, you can start to heal the lining of your sinuses. Because when you have sinusitis, if it's inflamed, it's scarred up in there, okay? So you need to heal them. It's also great for, so I write gout, free radical issues, so cancer stuff as well, herpes, spinal disc injury, parasite issues, biofilm, and the list goes on. And so I use it therapeutically. And if you're using the Zorox one, it's pretty potent. So you can do like one in the morning, one in the midday. You can do another one in the afternoon. But if you're going into surgery, make sure you do that. When you come back from the surgery, you can actually maybe even take 2 in the afternoon. Okay. But it's pretty potent. Okay. That's how you want to use proteolytic enzymes, because those guys are going to go in there and clean things out for you. Okay. So I think that's good. I can say so much more about sinuses, but one thing that I would love for all of you to check out is my 4B courses that I taught. I go so much more into breathing, sinus issues, how to massage the sinus areas, so 4B course that it's on our website, but also the Shift to Network. I did the 7B course, which includes the breath as one of them. So please look into that on our website. Okay, so then let's go to the next question, Chris.
Okay, you're getting way ahead of me. I'm just going to post up that link, and there you go. That's the link to the 4Bs course that we have available through our website. So you can go straight to that. And this is a great program that actually gets into a little bit more depth on some of these topics. Okay, so the next question is, I have been diligently following our protocol of supplements and HCl. I've been taking up to 2,600 milligrams of betaine HCl with each meal, and I still experience burping. I was not sure if I should keep increasing the dose or stay at that dose. And by the way, everyone, 2,600 milligrams is a lot of hydrochloric acid as a supplement. So this is an important question.
It is, but I took 2,000 for my lunch.
Yeah.
So, that's like
we've actually had people that have taken, well, now that I think about it, we've had people that will take 7,000 milligrams in one dose or more. So
exactly. So it's not crazy amount, but I have worked with her and know that this is a very important question that she brought up. Okay. So here's the deal. Okay. When you are having these questions, okay, I'm burping and I'm gassy after I've eaten, even though I took stomach acid. In most cases, I would say, let's try to take a little bit more of the hydrochloric acid and see if that would help. That will be my answer at the beginning. Okay. And then there is this small group of us, okay, that ends up happening. What ends up happening is that your nervous system, your autonomic nervous system, has actually flipped over to what we call parasympathetic dominance. So you've all heard about how sympathetic nervous system is fight or flight, and everybody's in sympathetic nervous system. We're all like stressed out and this and this and that. Okay. So Chris described it really well to me, because we were talking about this. I've been curious about this for years. So I've been kind of learning more and more about this. So what happens is that, think of a bell curve. Okay. So when the stress begins, you adapt to the stress, because stress it's not all bad. So you adapt to the stress. And then you hit this point where this is the sympathetic nervous system's reactions. Okay. Fight or flight. Okay. You're adapting to that. And this is starting to come down to kind of the parasympathetic nervous system. I just want you to kind of think like that. Okay. This particular person that I'm working with has been chronically exhausted. for a long time. For several years, she's been super exhausted, could barely get out of bed. It's, for those of you that know, chronic fatigue syndrome and things like that, I would say she is basically in that place. So what happened was that she was working with her stress for a while, but the stress lasted for a long time, and more stress piled on. Your nervous system can't keep up with that. Okay. And then begins to just kind of dial down. And you actually go into the place called parasympathetic dominance. So it's like you're putting a brake on the car all the time. So it's not good or bad. Okay. So in this world, we talk about, we need to get out of the sympathetic nervous system and we've got to go into parasympathetic. Not so fast, everyone. I work with a lot of empaths and sensitives and parasympathetic dominant people who have been exhausted and they're in the burnout stage of 4 and 5. Okay. They can't get out of bed anymore. So even though she's taking about 4 capsules of HCl, she's still burping. Should I have her take more? Should I have her take less? I'm going to actually recommend with you, who is now in a parasympathetic dominant place, okay, is to maybe back it down to 3 capsules instead, like I took for my lunch, okay? And what we're going to do is give your body a little bit of a gas, okay? Gas pedal kicks in. And the gas is oftentimes done through phosphorus, okay? So when you do the hair tissue analysis with me, we always check your phosphorus level. And so what I mean by that is 20 to 30 drops of liquid phosphorus. You put it in the water first thing in the morning, and then you do another one, 20 drops or so in the afternoon. Probably away from food will be better, okay? It doesn't matter, but away from food is at this point better, okay? And then what you do is you just give yourself a little bit of a gas, okay? So you're not pushing the brake and sinking into the parasympathetic dominant position, okay? And there's so many things I can say, but when you are in a parasympathetic dominant stage, you tend to have lower calcium, okay? And more magnesium you take, the more you're going to get into the parasympathetic dominance. So magnesium is actually important, but you can't be taking so much magnesium, okay? This is a very tricky thing to be talking about because I almost need to be working with someone like you to really guide you through this, okay? But you get the point that you can't just say magnesium's good for me, I'm just going to take it. Well, if you're in stage 4 and 5 of burnout and you're parasympathetic dominant and you're putting a brake on yourself, you actually need to bring up energy up a little bit. Okay, so let me show you the phosphorus that I'm talking about. So this gets a little too crazy for me to be, talking too much because it gets so scientific, but one of these days. So this is the super phosphozyme liquid that I would recommend from Fullscript. And you just put about 20 drops of it in the water, just a little bit, like just a little glass of water, and drink it first thing in the morning and then towards the middle of the afternoon away from your food. So that's the one that I would recommend. Okay. Chris, you want to say a couple more things at all? I know it's already at the top of the hour, but
yeah, there's a lot to say about this. We can do a whole course on. Sorry.
Yeah, we can do a whole course on this. So maybe just leave it as that. I mean, I can say so many more things, but I think what I want all of you to get out of this is that you can't just say, I'm going to do a vagal toning exercises so that I can increase my parasympathetic nervous system constantly. That isn't going to always work because what we need might be a little bit of help on the sympathetic side and getting the gas to go into the parasympathetic. So you're not constantly pushing the brake and just going down the bell curve. And then like you're starting to droop down and you can't get out of bed. I hope that makes sense. So phosphorus gives you the gas pedal, get you going a little bit. And it's great. Just on the side note, if you are pregnant or you know of somebody that is pregnant and having a morning sickness, doing the phosphorus in the morning is actually really, really good. About the same amount, 20 drops, but please check in with your doctor as well. But sorry, Chris, I cut you off. I got so much to say, but I think we should
just
go
a
into
quick
that.
word on the phosphorus, and I'll jump to the next question. But the phosphorus is something that it helps to stimulate that gas pedal, like Masami said. So it gets the other side of your nervous system engaged again. So you're not stuck in that braking hard with your parasympathetic system. Okay. So it does that. One thing is when you're in parasympathetic dominance, you tend not to digest your food very well because you're not producing a lot of stomach acid. And phosphorus is something that you stop holding or processing in your food when you have low stomach acid. So this is a really helpful supplement as you're rebuilding your energy so that you can digest and metabolize the phosphorus from your foods and then gently lift yourself back up. Okay, so it's a gentle lift to help break that cycle of hard braking and your body always trying to slow itself down to the point that it can't rev up the engine again. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say there, because we could go on and on this topic.
And like this topic alone is
It's
so big.
It's a huge one. It's really
I wanted to share the liquid iodine that I'm talking about for putting into the neti pot. I actually put 3 drops under my tongue throughout the day, here and there when I feel like it. It tasted pretty strong today, so I held back. If something tastes really, really strong, your body way of saying, okay, this is enough, right? So I stopped. But Iodine HP, I would say out of all the iodines out there in the world, this is the one to go with because it was formulated by Dr. Brownstein. Is that, am I saying his name
Dr.
right?
Brownstein.
Yeah. Dr. Brownstein. He's the king of all, in terms of iodine. Right. So if you want to learn about iodine, you got to read his books. Okay. I've read all his books on iodine, but he's the one that formulated the iodine here. And so it not only has iodine, but it has iodide in it. Okay. You want to have both. And, you can start with just a half a tablet per day. So this is important for sinus issues, but if you have thyroid issues, you've got to look at iodine. Iodine is used by every cell in your body, every cell.
Quick word on this too. Quick iodine, the iodine form, the elemental form, that's what your hormones need to make hormones. The iodide is something that's antiviral, antifungal. So it's very important in the world that we live in today because most people, not just Americans, but most people globally are very, very deficient in iodine. The only exceptions probably are Japanese and Korean people at this point. There may be some other Pacific Islanders too, but most of us are very depleted. And this form has both. So it helps with your immune function and your hormone function.
And again, please don't buy this on Amazon. We don't know where that comes from. Okay. So, the iodine in Japan, we consume about 600% more iodine in Japan than the people in the United States. So right now with COVID, I have upped my iodine from half a tablet per day to 1 per day right now, just for those of you that are interested in that side. Okay, so then let's go to our last question and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, is this the one on
the fibroids? I mean, this question, before I start, this is where you gotta be asking me questions that it's a lot more focused, but I chose this question because I want all of you to know that this is the kind of questions that I receive. But the key is you got to get to know what it is that the top 2 things that you need to ask me. right? I always ask you, if you're going to work with me one-on-one, you got to ask me 3 questions. Focus. Okay. So, but I just wanted you to read everything but the kitchen sink kind of a question that I receive. And I'm going to go from here to give you some things that I can maybe answer based on this question. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to read the question as it was submitted. Fibroids, hormones, cycle issues mixed with leaky gut, overextended stomach from overeating, not purposely necessarily, and mind anxiety, depression, victimization, boundaries issues, if you can address, narcissist in home. Okay, so it's like Masami said, there's a lot going on here, and let's start with some basics.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the basics of, I think I'm going to start with fibroids, okay, because it's actually it's easier to answer, okay. So fibroids are increase in estrogen, right, compared to progesterone. And whenever you have fibroids, there are 2 things that pops in my head right away. This person is not eating right. Blood sugar is dysregulated. Second, this person's liver is congested because the liver's job is to clean your estrogen. Okay. So I would look into looking at some of those supplements that I mentioned. Number 1, you got to be eating right. You got to be digesting. So hydrochloric acid, you got to be supporting your liver. And so that's probably the one that I would go with. And also you can use liquid iodine directly onto the fibroids on your skin. So you can put it on the cotton puffs and then you can actually place that, soak it, and then you can place it, go to bed with it, take a nap with it, that would be good. Zorox does have a product called Complete Care Spray, that does have silver in it also. So I always keep that in my house. I sometimes just spray my mouth, or if I have areas that I want to heal fast, I would spray that. But it's basically so there's blood sugar dysregulation with fibroids, as well as liver congestions. And the third thing is the iodine deficiency. So do you see that all the stuff that I've been answering actually comes together, right? So iodine deficiency has been tied to the fibroids. So I just wanted to, because fibroids are a big issue for a lot of women. So I wanted to bring that up. Those 3 things you want to make sure to address. Okay. And then I wanted to come back to the depression, anxiety, and then how the gut-brain connection is. I know that most of you here, maybe all of you, know how important the gut-brain is, right? I don't need to go into that. Take care of your gut, eat right, digest right. I mean, you've got to take care of the hara space, right? Your tanden or dantian, because that's where all your microbes, your microbes are everywhere, but so much concentration of the microbes are there. Microbes are not happy. You're not going to make good neurotransmitters. Okay. If the microbes are inflamed and they're having a hard time, you're not going to make serotonin, right? So you don't sleep well. So there's this like a vicious circle that ends up happening. So make sure that you are taking care of your gut. And that's when the proteolytic enzymes that I mentioned, the 8 times pancreatin, or you could do the intenzyme forte from biotics. Those are fabulous, right? When it comes to depression, anxiety, we have to look at, do you have any food allergies? Are you eating dairy? Are you eating gluten? Are you eating too much sugar? So the diet has to be immaculate. Seriously, you've got to clean up your diet, okay? I'm not trying to pick on you, but a question like this makes me think, what the heck are you eating? Okay. What are you eating to ask me a question that has all these things in it? So you've got to look at your diet and make sure you are doing your part to show up to this earth fully. And obviously there's an environmental toxins, right? I sense mold from this person. I sense fungal overgrowth from this person. Most likely this person is living in a household that has water leakages, maybe pipe that has been leaking behind the walls for a long time. I don't know, but most likely. and the heavy metal issues. But heavy metals and fungus and candida overgrowth, they go together because yeast and fungus will eat heavy metals. Okay, so you can't separate them either. So food has to be clean, and you got to be digesting. You got to clean up your environment, and the mold and wet spaces and EMFs, so electromagnetic fields. And if you have Wi-Fi right next to this wall that is wet and damp and mold growing, they can grow, according to Dr. Klinghardt, you can grow your mold by 700 times. So, and then we're going to be breathing that in. So there's a lot that you've got to address. These are stressors. These are stressors. And I'm not even talking about cosmic level stress. I'm not even talking about your traumas. I'm not even talking about political stress. I'm talking about just the immediate, what you can do. There's so much stress in this. So please start taking care of it. And the bioflow is the key, and stomach acid is the key. Helping your pancreas with the pancreatic enzymes, but also not eat, snack all day long. Very important. And also the last thing, I'll hand it over to Chris, but I wanted to mention is to make sure that you are aware of the dangers of antibiotics. Okay. The study came out, I believe it was last year or earlier this year. The study was showing that one course of antibiotics increases the risk of depression by 23 to 25%. And I'm talking one single course of antibiotics. And if you do 2 or more, your chances of becoming anxious and depressed goes up by 40 to 56%. And, so when you start to think about all this, we really need to stop and say, do I need to take antibiotics? Because the effect is going to go far beyond, it's going to reach far beyond than your immediate discomfort. So please pay attention to that. I'm not saying that you're taking antibiotics. This is just a side note. I just wanted to mention that you are aware of that. And exercise, movement, create breathing exercises. Please sign up for my 4B course and do the breath work with me, because the nitric oxide is going to be so important for killing the bacteria in your sinuses, but also cleans out the brain. Depression and anxiety is things that are clogged up in your brain. The lymphatic system isn't doing its job. So the second B, first is breath. The second B that I talk about is brain. And I go into all kinds of exercises, all kinds of supplements, and all kinds of things you can do to support your brain. Please do these things with me and with others that have really benefited from this.
Well,
so
the other 2 B's are bile and boundaries. So
that's right.
That course was made for you. Because
that's right. Her question was boundaries as well.
That's what that course was about. And if I could just add for just a minute or so, a couple of other pointers here, because just generally for any of you who are experiencing, let's just call them mental health symptoms, one of the first things that you want to think about is, let me break it down very simply. This is when I was working with our state police as the director of wellness, I had to package things in really small bites because they were really busy, stressed out people with a lot of traumatic exposure. And so what I encourage them to think about is that what it takes for you to take care of your body is actually simple, and it's few in number. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of detailed things here, but when you really look at it, Masami asked a couple of key questions. What is the quality of your food? Okay, are you eating good quality nutrient-dense foods? That's one of the simple things you can address. Another simple thing you can address that affects your whole system, your brain, your digestion, your blood rate, your blood sugar, everything. Water. How much water are you drinking? Are you sufficiently hydrated? The 2 biggest things that we find that affect people's entire body, their entire health most dramatically, are the stomach digestion with the hydrochloric acid and hydration. Those 2 things are absolutely vital, and they're so basic that people sometimes forget that they're not drinking enough water in a day. Okay. When it comes to mental health, when you're getting mental health symptoms, not only is it a sign of ongoing stress beyond what your system can manage and keep up with, but it's also going to indicate digestive issues. It means you're not absorbing, either you're not getting enough nutrients in through your food because that's not high quality food, and or you're not absorbing that those essential nutrients through your gut lining. Okay, so there's a direct connection. The research on mental health and nutrient deficiencies is really interesting because they're just a handful of things that, when they're insufficient in our bodies, really contribute to mental health issues. Things like zinc, B6, magnesium. And I'm not saying go out and just start piling those into your body, because you have to go with the basics first, which is, are you digesting what you eat? Are you eating quality foods? And are you staying hydrated throughout the day? Because that will also affect your energy levels, your sleep, blood sugar, and everything else. Okay, so all of these things are connected. So even when you get a complex question or just a list of things that aren't going right, you can still start at a very simple, basic level and just make yourself that checklist. Am I drinking enough water? Okay, and we're not going to go into all of what that is today, but you can check out quality of food, how you're hydrating, and then move to supplements next.
And in closing, I wanted to share, I forgot to mention about this one. So this is Zorox, and we do use this for preventive measures from COVID, but also if you have sinus infections, this is great. It's called Cyanuse Spray, and it does have silver in it. And Chris, you love this.
Yeah, I do use this one quite a bit myself. When I was going into the office regularly, and I was doing courses and teaching people in person, every time I came back from that, I would use a couple of sprays in each side of my nose. It's very good.
And a side note, everyone, if you do order stuff from Zorox, ask them to send you their literatures on this. They're really good at educating you. And if you really want to learn this stuff, ask them to send you sheet with information. And they always cite all their studies and things like that, so you can read up on it more. Okay. That's why, I mean, they're like a nerdy bunch of people. So, you can always go, and so they fit me perfectly.
We like them. I was going to say that.
That's exactly right. And then I'm going to do a little bit of a show and tell of my favorites, like my favorite things. Okay. So lymphatic drainage, I use this also, and it's a homeopathic remedy. So you tap the bottom of the glass bottle 3 times, okay, to activate it. And then it comes with a dropper. So full dropper under your tongue in the morning if you're feeling the lymphatic system is not draining very well. I have an extremely sluggish lymphatic system, so I have to work on my lymph drainage all the time. I have quite a bit of scars on my body, and every scar blocks all my lymph from flowing. So this is something I do first thing in the morning. And if it helps, I don't do it again. But last night I was having lymph drainage issues, so I place it under my tongue right before I went to bed also. Okay. So, we can go on forever, but we got to let you go and let you sleep. So I think I'll stop the share.
I just turned the chat.
Do you want to open up the chat?
Yeah, I just turned it back on. So if you want to.
All right. That's it. I know some of you warriors stayed on. I know it's a kind of a late one, but we couldn't do it any earlier. So I hope that was helpful to you. I did receive questions about, whether we should be detoxing and how do we detox. And I ended up talking to her because she did a session with me recently. But what I can say about the detox is that it's everything we're talking about right now. Lymphatic drainage. So I use that, right? Sinus has to be detoxing. Gallbladder, liver detoxing. You want to be doing it regularly, but I'm not a huge fan of doing like 10 days, nothing but juicing. Like I don't do well with that kind of a world. That is so masculine in its approach to me. It's not feminine enough for me. It's not gentle enough for me. I like to address my body more regularly and consistently instead of just like pick a 10 days that I'm just going to doing nothing but green juice kind of a thing.
Can I jump in on that point?
That doesn't work for me. Yeah.
Just because this is something that we've had to deal with in our own lives is how to detox, because we've had measurable things like heavy metals that we found in our hair tests. And one thing I would say is many of us don't have the metabolic energy right at this moment to do a serious hard detox, meaning you're forcing the detox. The kinds of things that we're talking about here and recommending, these are going to give you the natural, gentle detox that your body should be able to do on its own. And it's going to do it in a slower way that won't put such a burden on your energy systems. Okay, so by following these simple steps, by supporting these functions that we're talking about, just as Masami said, you will actually start to rebuild and restore your ability, your capacity to detox naturally without having to force it. If you're having to force it, it's a pretty good indication that your basic systems aren't being addressed. They're not getting the support they need, okay? So doing these things, you will actually detox naturally, and it's much easier on your system.
Yeah. So I think, our education, how we learned, and we had a fabulous teacher that kept telling me, Masami, you got to do the basics. You got to come back to the basics. Because I was doing, like, I could see this person's energy, we will be practicing on each other. And then I'm like, oh, but this is where I want to go. And then he will come in, and then he was like 6'4", right? He goes, Masami, you can't jump the steps, and then I think it's true. Like I got to pull back from doing so much reading and energy medicine, because sometimes it's like, if you're doing emotional work and your liver's congested, you're going to have a heck of a time with emotional work. Trust me on this, because you're just going to stir up dust inside you. Okay. You got to have your elimination organs functioning. So your lungs, your kidneys, your liver, your gallbladder, your large intestine, your skin, okay, your lymphatic system. Those are basically your elimination organs that need to be cleared before you start to do all this stirring up work.
And it will help things like mental health as well. Because we didn't mention this before, but there's been a lot of research in the past couple of years that shows that inflammation leads to poor mental health outcomes, and poor mental health outcomes lead to inflammation. So if you can tackle the inflammation by supporting your digestive system, especially your digestive system, let's just leave it at that, your bile flow, your stomach digestion, those two components right there will greatly help to reduce inflammation lower down in your system. So your small intestine, your large intestine. And if you can do that over time, and that's the key, because it's gentle, we're not forcing it hard, it takes time to realize the results. So it might take maybe a month or 3 weeks, but you'll start to feel that gentle change. And eventually one day you'll realize that you forgot to think about your problem. And you'll look back and say, oh yeah, that's right. I used to have this all the time. And now it's not bothering me so much. What happened? Well, what happened was you started to give your body the tools it needs to fix itself. Okay, so that's what this is about.
Well, I think we should let them go. Okay.
We release you now.
I know the last thing I put it on the chat, everyone, is emunctory organs. Okay. Look that up, find out what emunctory organs are. So naturopaths, doctors will use this word. But make sure to add lymphatic system to that, because the lymphatic system is gaining more and more understanding. Doctors are even starting to look at it and how important your lymphatic system is. So many of us would love for doctors to start to look at lymphatic system as one of the organs. Okay. So like all the ones I mentioned, right? Kidneys to lungs, to skin, to lymphatic system, to gallbladder. I mean, not gallbladder, but the liver. And what did I miss? Large intestine. Okay. Those are your emunctory organs. Oh, I told you to look it up and I just gave you the answer. Anyway, all right. Well, so that's all I got. And thank you, everyone. Yeah. We always say 1 hour and we end up going longer, but it's fine. This always takes longer to go through. I was actually kidding myself if I thought that I was going to get this done in an hour.
It's because it's all connected, and it's hard to talk about one of these things without having to open up several others that are related, because they all come together in your body. So
yeah, and as a little bonus, I think everyone, you got to get this BioA emulsion. So this is for you that emailed me and said you got the COVID again. I got several emails. So A is very important for antiviral. D is important. Yes. NAC is important. Zinc is important. Yes. We know that. Okay. And then quercetin, absolutely. Okay. Making sure that the glutathione is being made. All those are important. But A is like under radar, it's like nobody's talking about this thing. Vitamin A is the fat soluble vitamin. If you have liver and gallbladder issues, you're low on vitamin A. When I start to feel like my eyes are getting fuzzy, I can't see things very well. Well, one, I'm spending too much time in front of the computer, but I reach for vitamin A and I give myself a little bit of vitamin A on my, so this comes in liquid form because it's an emulsified version. So it's so easy to digest. It doesn't even, it just goes into your mouth basically. Okay. So you put a pea size on your hand. You get a little droplet to come out and make a little pea size and you lick it. Okay. And you just do that 1 to 2 times per day. It's really, really helpful for what's going on with COVID, but it's vitamin A. It's endless of what this can do, but particularly this is helpful for your eyes. Okay. So there you go.
Okay. For real. That's it.
For real. Okay, everyone. So we will see you soon. Chris, you want to say goodbye then?
Yeah, I'll say goodbye. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. And as you can see, we always have more to say than we have time, yours or ours. So we'll do more.
We do appreciate donations, everyone. We really do. I spent like the entire weekend coming up with the whole list. So if you feel like, okay, I want to donate her $1, yes, because it'll help us with our cost of running all this that
By the way, Masami's spent hours just prepping, taking in people's questions, pulling together the information. And so it's if you like having us offer this kind of thing at no cost, it is helpful because there are real costs for us on our side. So I put the link up there. You can also find it on our homepage. It's just a PayPal button. And if you feel moved to donate, we appreciate it always. And
for those of you that have been donating monthly, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And now we'll leave you. For us, we're going into the night, and we will see you next time. So thank you.
Bye.